Hello everybody, hope you're going well, and the topic of today is going over Bardock's 3 main designs or redesigns within the main series, so not Timebreaker Bardock unfortunately, although it is definitely a cool design, and we'll look at Nakatsuru's original design for Bardock. If you don't know who he is, he designed Super Saiyan 4 and was the character designer for the Buu arc and Dragon Ball GT. Recently did a video on him, then Toriyama's redesign, and then his other redesign for Dragon Ball Minus, and let me know in the comments which is your favorite, although try not to turn the comment section into a war zone. And as usual, the featured artist for this video is IJC_King144. Go give the man a follow. I personally like the early DBZ feel his art has while adding his own unique twist, so go give him a follow. And if you want to be featured in a video, use this hashtag and tag me preferably on Insta, but Twitter is okay as well if you're on there. And well, let's now get into the video. So let's get to the first design by Katsuyoshi Nakatsuru, which honestly has quite an interesting backstory behind it, told by Nakatsuru himself with an interview he did with Toriyama, and describes that the director Mitsu Hashimoto basically wanted to go with the image of Akira Kurosawa's Seven Samurai, a classic film all within itself that has spawned multiple adaptations. And in the second half of the film, the main character wears the chest protector over his bare skin, which is the reason why Bardock doesn't have any shoulder pads. And I 100% can feel that energy carried from this character over into Nakatsuru's design. It feels primal, gritty, and even somewhat primitive in a sense, and that's exactly how a Saiyan warrior should feel, and I think this feel is also added by not having the leggings. He also seems to have given him wristbands like Goku instead of the normal armored ones, Nappa and Raditz War for example, so most likely a small nod to Goku and something a little different to your general Saiyan armor outfit. And with his hairstyle, I'm sure it's mixed between fans, and I kind of recall someone saying that they liked it because it makes the character not look like he isn't just Goku with a scar, and I do kind of agree. His hairstyle is somewhat similar to Goku's with the spikes out on the sides and has the bangs hanging out from the front, but at the same time it's also a unique style of hair to Bardock, somewhat like Minato and Naruto's. They are both similar, but they aren't exactly the same. And in the long run, considering this hairstyle would be reused a lot and had actually already been used for Turles in Dragon Ball Z Movie 3, which only released 2 months previous to this special, I understand and appreciate Nakatsuru's attempt to do something different. And so in all honesty, I'm kind of mixed to which one I prefer. Both have their positives, but I think it is a notable point that deserves praise. And when it comes to the color palette, although it is nothing that jumps out at you, it does make sense lore-wise since Bardock is just a regular Saiyan and a low-class Saiyan at that, and generally a lot of the Frieza Force had either like brown or yellow tones for the armor pads. Light blue did make an appearance here and there, as I'm sure there were probably others that also did that I'm not remembering, but those were the 2 main colors, so it makes sense for him to have this color palette. Although from an artistic standpoint, to make Bardock stand out as he is the star of this special, I can understand why he was given a quite unique color palette with red, blue, and green. Although I'm guessing Maeda chose the colors as Toriyama only redesigned the base drawing for Bardock. Of course, he could have indicated the colors he wanted in a separate note, but there is no evidence he did, although Nakatsuru's Bardock with the colors from the final design we saw in the original TV special looks great to me, especially with the headband, and he really carries a fearsome look, and I'm sure it won't be the most popular opinion, but I would have been happy with this design as well if it was given these colors, but hey, you know, that's just me. And well, it's a good time as any to get to Toriyama's redesign and the classic design we saw in the final product. So first up, I like how Toriyama still kept the spirit of Nakatsuru's original design without the shoulder pads and the leg coverings that cover over a lot of his shoes. He also decided to remove the armor pad covering Bardock's vitals and gave him leggings reminding me somewhat of Kui's design. And with the leggings, it's a nice in-between because it gives Bardock somewhat of a sleek look while still having that ruthless and primal aesthetic all in one package. Perhaps not as primal as the original, but it is definitely still there. And there is also a small but nice addition to have the armband cover part of Bardock's fist. Design-wise, I think it looks cool and is somewhat different to what we have seen. And finally, the hair. Although you could say it is perhaps a little unoriginal compared to Nakatsuru's, from a visual storytelling perspective, however, when your audience sees this character, they will 100% know that it is Goku's father at first glance without anyone having to say a word of dialogue. And it is a cool aspect regardless that Goku has the same hair as his father. Then when we get to Toriyama's redesign done back in 2013 for Dragon Ball Minus, a bonus chapter for Jacko the Galactic Patrolman. However, I'll bring up Chintani sheets which very faithfully adapted Toriyama's new Bardock. The only new addition by Shintani from my knowledge was choosing the colors, although perhaps someone else made that call, but I'm guessing it was him. So starting off, Toriyama did bring over some of the spirit from his original design. The scar still remains, same hairstyle, the armbands are the same, and he still has like the tight leggings, and the armor doesn't have that like third centerpiece. However, does it carry over that ruthless warrior feel from Nakatsuru's? Not really. That aspect seems to be mostly gone, unfortunately, especially like with the shoulder pads being added. And this is also the first appearance of this style of the shoulder pads with like the curved brim rather than the pointy end, which does address the question of why we never saw a style of armor once, both in the manga and anime. Like with their appearance in Resurrection of F, I guess you could say that they were new armor sets recently produced, but in Bardock's case, since it is well in the past, it does kind of feel strange. But then again, Toriyama did retcon his design completely anyway from his brief appearance in the manga, so I guess it's just another thing. But besides that, I will say it is cool to see what Bardock looks like with shoulder pads, and from an artistic standpoint, the style within itself is a unique variation to your generic armor set we have seen in the series multiple times, so Bardock definitely still does come off like an everyday Saiyan warrior, but not entirely generic. And the boots are changed up, and those leg wraps or bands, whatever they're called, are gone, and the bottom half in general looks actually kind of very similar to Vegeta's actually. The color palette, however, is certainly not anything special either, and somewhat like Nakatsuru's may come off a little bland and basic, but at the same time it sells the point that Bardock is just a regular soldier, and unlike last time, the focus really isn't on him. But I still can't deny how much cooler the design looks overall with the old colors. And so once again, with the hair, it's just a mix. I think it's up to artistic interpretation. Honestly, the main factor I didn't like though was Toriyama making him thinner, especially in the legs. Like Bardock's upper arm is kind of like around the same size of his upper leg. I also miss that angular touch that Toriyama gave to his characters' faces. It fit the series well and made the characters look more intimidating and fierce, and if you put Nakatsuru's design right next to him, you can clearly see that he feels like an absolute Chad in comparison. And lastly, Toriyama seems to draw his head more larger in proportion to his body, which again is a stylistic choice that is present in a lot of his modern work, and one that kind of gives me mixed feelings. However, unlike the more thinner look to Bardock, this stylistic choice doesn't really make it into Shintani sheets, and front on the face feels slightly less wider with the jawline more angled in compared to the Bardock Toriyama drew in the bonus chapter. And as usual in relation to Toriyama's newer style, it isn't bad by any means, it's just my personal preference. So the final verdict and rating. So personally, I would give the first design by Nakatsuru a solid 9. I absolutely love the vision the director Hashimoto had, channeling several aesthetic notes from the movie Seven Samurai, and Nakatsuru being skilled enough to understand the vision laid out and implement it very smoothly into a Dragonball design. He also replicated Toriyama's style very well in the process, even down to colouring it in with watercolour himself. The only negative I can hold against it, which I wouldn't even say is an outright bad thing, is the colour palette perhaps being a little plain for a character that was going to take centre stage in this special. However, if you give him the colours from Bardock's second design, honestly for me it would bump up the score. Then secondly, Bardock's redesign by Toriyama, it still incorporates aspects of the original vision of a rugged warrior while also having a somewhat sleeker look. And even though I appreciate Nakatsuru doing something unique and different with their hair, I'd still probably go with Toriyama's at the end of the day, but I think it is a close call. And finally, the colours are also interesting and make Bardock stand out. Final score, 10. Then the final one. It takes elements from his first redesign, however, mostly leaves out the stylistic notes from Nakatsuru's in the process, and while ruggedness isn't absent from this design by any means, it perhaps isn't to the extent of Toriyama's original, and especially compared to Nakatsuru's. Shintani also does a great job adapting Toriyama's modern style, however with some stylistic notes left out, like the large proportion head. However, that is more of a positive for me personally. And also, I have to give Shintani credit for breathing some life into it, because when I first saw this design in black and white within the manga, it might have been a 5 in regards to first impressions, but in the end, with what we got with Shintani and seeing it coloured, I would bump it up to a 7.5. Although I'm sure there'll be some people who don't think it deserves that rating and probably should just be a 5, but hey, you know, that's just my opinion. But anyway, that wraps this video up, and for the next one, I might have an Araki mangaka review, 5 best pieces or whatever the title was. I don't know, I might get sidetracked and do something else, so no promises, but I hope to discuss his work anyway soon. And well, with that final note, I hope to see you all in the next video.